Hello everybody and welcome to a how to make your career mode most realistic video. And today I'm just basically going to be going over how I make my career mode the most realistic it could possibly be, at least for me anyway, without an external use such as like people use spreadsheets and stuff to do finances. I don't go that deep, but this is how you do it just on FIFA, and yeah, I think it's pretty simple. I'll show you my settings and I'll just talk through some of the ways you can make it a little bit more realistic. So we'll get straight into this. I don't want to make it too long of a video. This should only be a couple minutes really. I use 5-minute half length and I use ultimate. I think if you take this down from ultimate to world class and whatever, it shouldn't really matter. But that's just preference. These two, you can do what you want. 5-minute half length just feels right for me. I might bump it up to 6 every now and then, but it really depends. I'll have to trial and test that more, but you can make your own judgment on that. Youth tournaments, I don't really play them at the minute on my career modes because I'm doing a United one, but I do 5-minute games with the current overall because I just feel like it's a better way to get a grip of your players. I always watch a full match intro. I really enjoy it. It makes it feel more realistic. The players walk out and you see them walk out, so I just feel like it's quite fun. Simulation settings, this is where it gets quite deep. Custom for me, I use medium wind effects and I use weather effects. People don't like weather effects and they turn this onto low because the weather effects, especially in the rain, can hold up the ball a lot. However, I feel with recent patches that they've improved that quite a decent bit. So that's personal preference, but I like to keep it on. I feel like it's quite a nice little feature to have on, and it makes a difference in every game. So eh, those games with rain are a little bit more maybe hard to play, or you have to play them different, play different players, and I like the added layer to the career mode there. So sprint speed 32, acceleration 47 for both, shot error 60 on both, pass error. See, I make the user pass error worse than this, better than CPU, because it's harder to pass on this game than it is for the CPU. That can change though. You can just put both of them the same. But for now I just use that. It works for me. Shot speed stays the same. Pass speed, I put it too higher for the CPU with mine on 38, just because I feel like it makes it a little bit harder to defend the CPU. And if you're finding it too easy, it just adds that little extra kind of competitiveness to the game, because the AIs can be a little bit strange sometimes. Injury frequency, see, this is where I have problems in. So I'm restarting my United save now, because I accidentally overwrote the save file. But in my one before, I had a lot of problems with injury, and this still can cause you problems. But if you put it on a 65 or even like 67 or something weird, it seems to not affect you as much as if you put it on like 70 or like 60, which is just really weird. But that's why I put it in between. Injury severity, so if you're going to have more injuries, you want more of them to be 2 or 3 weeks and not your ACLs and stuff. They still can pop up. Ahmad had a 7 month injury for me on mine, but if you put it down to 35, it's more rare, which it should be. Goalkeeper ability 55 on both. Marking for the user 60, marking for the CPU 64, makes it harder to break them down. Both 90 on run frequency, it just makes it a bit more, realistic, because players make runs all the time, but doesn't really come out on FIFA. Line height 66 for both, line length 40 for both, makes them more compact and modern, because you see most teams play a higher line in football now. You don't see anyone really playing a incredibly low line while they're on the ball, at least. Line width, keep the same, 50. Fullback positioning, doesn't really affect me because I don't have fullbacks in my United team, but 75, it just means they get forward, which is, yeah, again, a very modern thing. Power bar, doesn't really matter. First touch, 64 on each. CPU sliders now, a lot of people do these custom and change certain stuff, but to me, if you read it on the side, it says tactical. CPU decision making will fluctuate slightly from baseline behavior every match, and for more variety while playing the same opponent multiple times. See, that's why well, that's why I use tactical or dynamic, because it chooses the sliders for you during the game, and I feel like it simulates kind of tactical behavior from a manager a tiny bit more. If they're you know doing something wrong, then they will change it. Whereas if you put it on custom and put it on like build up speeds on 70, they're not going to change it. They're not allowed to change it because you've already set it on that. That was a horrific voice crack. Anyway, but I just feel like it makes it a tiny bit more realistic, and it helps a tiny bit. Um, training plans, I keep them on. I put realistic recovery rates, mine are not automated. Playing training drills, never do it. And you put development rate on fast, because otherwise your players just don't develop on this game. Transfer negotiations, I put on realistic. I put transfer approaches on loose, so because otherwise there's a lot of players who they just shut you out for, which isn't realistic, and you can then make your own judgments on who you think would be realistic to sign. That should all be about you, because this game isn't realistic enough for you to do it. General settings, I turn off international job offers, but that's a preference. Never really happens in real life. I use pound sterling, but to be honest, if you're at like Dortmund or something, say in Germany, you could put euros on. If you're in America, put dollars. I think that'd be quite a fun thing to do. I know a lot of people don't really think about that, but kind of immerses you into it a little bit more. Uh, don't think this really matters. Camera, I'm on telebroadcast right now, but I normally go onto the EA Sports Game Cam, and I put the height as 10, zoom as 20, but that's all personal preference. I just like that because it kind of looks like a broadcast. Visual doesn't really matter, although if you do want to get rid of the little bars in the bottom right and left, which kind of take up a bit of space, you can copy my kind of what they call settings here. Sorry, I had a brain malfunction. I turn off commentary. You don't really need to do this, but it's only because I record it. EA music volume, I turn it off just because it can get annoying in the background while I'm talking. But other than that, one thing I would say is to keep it realistic. This part, maybe if you don't want to do the extra details, you can skip past it or end the video. But for me, this is quite important. Now, every game should fluctuate for me. You need to be realistic with who's played a lot of games and who needs a rest. You have a best 11, say. So say we've got 4 games here in 2 weeks. Not every player is going to be able to play that whole thing. Say you have a player like, I don't know, who's known for injury here. Maguire, he's had decent amount of injuries every now and then. You know, he needs his rest. He's not the fittest player and he's 31. You have to make the decision based on the games, even if he's got full fitness, whether you think that it would be realistic that he plays. Especially when you have like backups like this. Sorry, don't like having players in the wrong position on my lineup. But yeah, especially when you have backups, if you have the chance to put people out and it would be a realistic thing to do, I think it's always a good thing to rotate, because in real life you don't get any rest in the Premier League, and that's why you see so many teams with so many different players. Of course, you have key players, like you wouldn't be swapping like a guy out of this team or a Bruno Fernandes, but with a lot of them, you have to kind of make that judgment yourself. Other than that, with transfers, I think there are like realistic transfer things and stuff, like to show how realistic transfers can be. But like here, you see, I'm rejecting offers for Harry Amas. Just not really realistic. Well, Palmer and Ipswich might go in for him, but I think it would be more of a loan. Højlund, that's not a realistic transfer. Of course, De Ligt to Liverpool. I always think if it's not a realistic transfer, like Antony to Villa, just reject it. And you know, my point would be that if it's a club outside of your league who maybe could go for him, then you can accept it. But say it's someone in your league and you're gonna have to play them, and it wouldn't be realistic to have to play them. You're better off just selling them to like Italy or something if you're in England, and just hoping you never see him again. And if not, you can just make a storyline up in your head and pretend they actually got better while away. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much the end of this video. It's only a short video, 10 minutes, um, of just kind of waffling on, but it's worth taking a look at. Obviously, there's a lot of ways to make this a lot more realistic. I use my own ways, you can use your own ways, but that's just a good example guide of how to do it. So if you enjoyed, hit the like and subscribe for career mode content, realistic career mode content, and I'll see you in the next video.